What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And this one wants to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I want to talk about what's going on with the economic calendar and some very important pieces of news involving the markets and what's happening with earnings and the news affecting Tesla. But before I break anything down, all this information, before I give you guys a very, very nice pre-market update, let me just mention a couple of things. Firstly, I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, deposit $100 into the account, you are guaranteed up to 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed up to 15 free stocks, and this offer ends very soon. Anyways, when it comes to Tesla, what's going on with it? So unfortunately, Tesla is going to likely gap down when we open. The reason why Tesla dropped is because we had some bad news that came out, despite the technicals from yesterday, despite the fact that Tesla was holding up very nicely. I want to break down why that is and whether or not Tesla will likely bounce as we're approaching a very critical support, in my opinion. So the bad news for Tesla, I want to start off with this, is the fact that Tesla is slashing prices across Europe. This is not the best of news that came out. They're trimming prices for the Model Y throughout Europe, especially in Germany, as much as 8.1%. And that is not the best of news so far for Tesla because their margins are getting tighter. This is also showing signs of weakening demand. And with the reduction of prices in Germany, France, Norway, and the Netherlands, and the biggest price cuts are in actually Germany for the Model Ys, it's just not the best of news for them. In France, it's actually they're lowering them by almost 7%, and this is just not the best of news because it's just showing more and more signs of weakening demand, and it's leading to some more concerns about their margins and their current state. Looking at the different technicals out there, looking at the different factors affecting their macros. So it's very, very important to look at this. The EV war is also heating up. We're just getting more and more news about this. This is what's causing Tesla to drop for now, despite the technicals I was talking about yesterday. So I want to just call that out. But I now want to talk about some important levels. Which level is important for Tesla for it to bounce? Where is it going to start falling from? What should you be watching for? I'll talk about that in just a few minutes. Let's talk about some news. We had some negative news for the markets. We're seeing some of these Fed speakers coming out saying that the odds of the Fed cutting very soon are going down. They're saying, and this is what Waller from the Fed said. They said that they see no reason to move as quickly as the past when it comes to their rate cuts. It's not the best of news. There's some news about a federal judge blocking JetBlue Airways' proposed $3.8 billion takeover of Spirit Airways, which is negative news for that company. Burger King Parents Restaurant Brands International is buying up the chain's largest franchise. So that news came out as well. And besides that, this was a little negative for the markets. The Chinese GDP numbers came out. I do not fully trust them, to be honest with you, but we have to just go based off the data. It actually showed a 5.2% growth for Q4 for them, which is below the estimates of 5.3%. And then on top of this, there's new reports that came out, which is showing that more companies are defaulting on their debts than before. A report came out from the S&P Global Rating showing 150 companies failed to make required debt payments last year. That's an increase of 80% thanks to the high interest rate environments. That's the highest we've seen in 7 years if you just kind of exclude the pandemic period. So once again, that's a very, very big change. The interest rate environments are still hurting some companies out there. It's very important to note. Now, what's going on with the markets? We had retail sales a little bit hot as once again there was an increase in December, but now we're going to be listening to a bunch of Fed speakers and some manufacturing numbers. So for the Fed speakers, we have Barr, Bowman, and Woods all giving their speeches. Make sure you listen to them very carefully. Some of them already started their speeches as I'm speaking. Other ones are about to start. Then we have some manufacturing numbers coming out at 9:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then besides that, we have the Fed Beige Book report, not to mention Williams from the Fed giving a speech. So a bunch of Fed speakers are going to be giving speeches throughout the day. And we have some manufacturing numbers about to come out like within a minute. So we'll be watching to see how this affects the markets. For earnings, we had Charles Schwab. We also had US Bancorp. Then we have Discover after the market closes. So these two already came out before the market opened. Charles Schwab ended up beating on EPS, but revenue was a miss, and their guidance was kind of mixed overall, not the strongest from what I saw. Uh, Not the best of news, at least thus far, with uh, decent earnings, but kind of mixed guidance. US Bancorp ended up beating on EPS, but they missed on revenue, and their guidance has been kind of like in the middle, not extremely strong either. So far, the earnings have been very mixed for the markets, not the strongest. And now we're going to be watching our levels very, very carefully. So The market is approaching 15 minutes until market open right now. Tesla's trying to hold this 215 area. What is the most important thing about it? So once again, guys, Tesla was showing very, very nice signs of trying to bounce yesterday after this accumulation. It's just that we had this bad news as they're slashing prices in Germany and also throughout Europe, in France, the Netherlands, and this was just bad news for them, which is why Tesla dropped the way it did. But here's some levels to watch for. So watch resistance at 215. If you want to be bullish, you want to see it break 217.63. If it breaks above this yellow resistance up here, Tesla is going to be pushing for 220 plus. Okay. If we're bearish, you want to see it lose 213.8, but that's not the last support. We also have critical support at 212. So we actually have two supports which are worth noting. I would watch both of these just to be safe. If we lose both of these supports, then Tesla will turn a lot more bearish. If we lose 212, we could be sinking straight down to 207. So you want to be very careful. All right, so watch 213.8 and then 212 as two critical supports. We must hold above 212, especially if we lose 212, 207 could be coming for Tesla. We can see a big drop. Uh, and then for resistance, watch 217.63. If we manage to break this, we're going to be pushing up for 220. What is Tesla doing? We're just chopping around the 215 area right now, but there is a chance it might try to push. So be very careful with it. The reason why I'm going to be a little bit careful with my analysis today is because we have a bunch of Fed speakers right now, and you don't know what they're going to say. The manufacturing numbers they just came out. They were actually close to expectations. The production was a little bit hotter than expected, so not bad. So we'll see if Tesla could try to push a little bit more, but watch this resistance in this 215 range and see if we could try to break above 217.6. If we do so, a big push could be coming. So watch these numbers very carefully. Uh, watch and see how Tesla reacts to supply and demand, and we'll be very, very careful, at least for the rest of the day. Now, as far as SPY goes, with the negative Chinese numbers in terms of GDP, with the fear incited by the Fed, we're barely at 472. We want to see if this thing can break above these key levels. If we lose this support right here, let me make this yellow for you guys. If we lose 471.4, which is where this wick happened to be, I think that there's a chance that SPY could end up sinking back down towards 470. And if we lose 470, our next target is 468, by the way. But we start sinking if we lose this yellow support right over here. If we lose this, that's going to be bad for SPY. 471.4. That's also very close to where our daily 20 EMA happens to be. If we're bullish, you want to see this thing basically break not just 472.35, which is where we had this wick, but also 473. If SPY gets above 473, it's going to have potential to get very close to 475, in my opinion. It might just try to break past the 474s and push for 475, very close to where this gap happens to be. So we have a big gap to fill if we do get some kind of bounce. So watch this very carefully. Can we break above 473 despite what the Fed speakers may say and etc.? Or do we end up losing 471.4? If we lose this one, we turn a little bit more bearish. If we break above this line right here, if we break this, we could try to push higher, so watch it very carefully. The QQQ is very simple. I was just looking at it. We're basically around 406. And if you look at the QQQ, we have some critical levels worth discussing. I'm going to make these yellow so you can see them. Basically, if we lose 406, our next target is going to be 404 on the triple Q. If we break above 408, our next target is going to be close to 410, and we have an unfilled gap to fill. So, in my opinion, I think it's very important that we watch these levels carefully between this 405.7 to 406 range right here. This is where we're trying to hold up. We're also trying to hold the 406s. If we're bullish, you need to break 408. If we break this, we're going to be filling this gap up to 410, and we could even touch 410 to 411. If we're bearish, you want to see it lose 405.7 to 406. Lose that, and this thing's going to be sinking to 404. I'd be watching this very closely and very carefully, as this is still kind of range bound during the pre-market. So we'll see if this thing can get a little push up and break above 408 to fill the gap. Now, with this gap, I'm going to keep this in my mind. I'll be watching this very carefully to see if we can get some kind of push. Right now, we're seeing buyers trying to defend 406, so I'll be watching this very carefully. As far as Nvda goes, Nvda is just between supply and demand. It's currently around, it's trying to push just a bit. It's at 564 right now. It's very simple, actually. Nvidia is actually doing a lot better than other stocks out there. So Nvidia has this resistance at 565. If we break this, our next target is going to be 568. If we break that, there's 570, then 572.5. For support, watch 565. I'm sorry, 562.5. That's going to be our support. If we lose that, then we have 560, 557, and 555. What is Nvidia doing? We're trying to push right now towards 565. We're fighting resistance. It looks like it might try to push a little higher. One of the things I said about yesterday was that Nvidia was looking pretty strong, so it might try to fight for 565 and try to push up to 568. This could help the market. We need to see it break 565 though, just for confirmation. It's holding up decently. It's actually trying to push right now, so watch it carefully. It's not looking that bad compared to other stocks, so I'm going to be very careful with it. As long as we hold above like 560, I think we're going to be completely fine on Nvidia. We could start pushing back up. We'll watch this just to be safe. But if we hypothetically lose the support, we could start sinking. We haven't done that yet. That's the reason why I'm saying it's favoring the bulls a little bit more. So it's still looking decent. On Apple, this is going to be the last one I talk about for the pre-market update. Uh, we need to try to break 182 points. 182.3 to 182.5 ish, this like range right up here. If we break 182.4 ish, this range up here, it's going to turn bullish. We could be pushing for 183, then eventually 183.5. If we lose 181, this yellow support right here, we're going to be sinking down towards 180. So, and if we lose 180, our next target is going to be 178. So it's very simple. Break 182.4 and we turn bullish. Lose 181, we turn bearish, right? And right now we're kind of in the middle. Apple's gapping down because of what the Fed announced and also the Chinese numbers and some other data that came out. So this is causing the market to drop just a bit, but let's see if Apple could try to break these resistance levels. We have resistance at 182, 182.5, and then if we do break above 182.4-ish, I think we're going to be pushing for 183.5, followed by 184.25. It could bounce if we break that resistance in the 182.4 area. If we lose 181, like I said, there's 180. That's going to be our next target, and 178. Otherwise, Apple's kind of stuck in this range again. So watch it very, very carefully and see if we could hold these levels. So with that being said, guys, I just want to thank you all so much for listening. I know that Apple is approaching its critical support, so we're going to be watching these levels carefully to see how the market holds up. I know I mentioned that a lot of stocks are looking decent and we could see some upside for them. That is the view I held, but things could change overnight because of unfortunate and foreseen pieces of news, because I couldn't have predicted that the Fed is going to come out and say these things, the Chinese numbers would look this bad and things like that. I couldn't have predicted that. So sometimes it happens, but it is what it is, guys. We just watch the levels and adjust based off that. And the biggest thing was Tesla. I mean, Tesla was looking very nice yesterday. It still has potential to bounce, but you have to be watching our particular levels. You have to be watching this gap. And there's no way I could have seen the news about Tesla slashing prices for its cars. So I'm sorry about that, but it is what it is. Let's hope that Tesla can try to get back above its resistance and try to push back up. So with that being said, watch your levels, do what you have to do, guys, and I'll see you guys very soon on the next video. Thank you, and peace out.